Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome back to another National Hockey League season, 2023-2024. It is the Ice Guys. It's Ian Cameron. It's Alex B. Smith. We are really excited to be back for the 2023-2024 NHL season. And we drop the puck tonight with a national TV ESPN triple header. And actually Sportsnet in Canada is picking up the games as well. And three very good contests. Nashville, Tampa Bay. We've got Connor Bedard's NHL debut, the number one overall pick from the 2023 NHL draft, and his Chicago Blackhawks taking on Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then we wrap it up with a great matchup of really good Western Conference teams, the defending Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights hosting the Seattle Kraken in the battle of the two most recent additions to the National Hockey League in that matchup. So it's a great triple header, great games to start us off. We will also be joined in a few minutes by our old friend down in Florida, Brett Pepler, joining us here on the show shortly as well to help us break down the Tuesday card. Thanks to everyone in the chat. We already see all kinds of names that it warms the heart, Alex. You just know, hey, Raymond Reddington's back. Tim York is back. Melissa Cunningham, who has been one of the great viewers and listeners, part of the fam for years. Das Fries, Truman Underwood, the Cuban Wayne Gretzky throwing out his props, I'm sure, in the chat this year once again, just to see those great faces. And I want to shout out especially here on this season premiere edition of the show, Stella Girl and Kevin, yes, newest members to the Ice Guys family plan. Again, we talked about this if you watched our NHL season preview show, and I can't believe how many terrific comments we got about the preview show. We really do appreciate it. I'm glad you loved it. I figured you would because, I don't know if it's possible to give you more than 5 hours of team by team content and previews, but we somehow did it. And I love our guy, Evan, who is a great viewer of the show too, was commenting to us, I'm certainly smarter, 5 hours of the preview show. I'm certainly much smarter and know a lot more about the NHL season. I didn't reply, but I'm going to say it now because this is what I was thinking of replying with. I was a lot more tired, after that 5 hours that we were on that preview show. I don't know if I'm smarter, but I know I was tired after that.
For sure.
Holy shit. I still can't believe we went 5 hours with that.
I know.
But it was fun. We enjoyed it. It was like therapeutic because you really get your thoughts and your opinions out there on all of these teams. And we know we have thoughts on them going into the season. So we appreciate the new signups. And we want to mention what the new signups will deliver for you. It's more so because we know we've had people saying we want to tip you or we want to show donate or something like that to show our love, show our appreciation for you guys being the only, and I mean only 7 days a week, NHL hockey betting show on YouTube, on the web, and the only one still, and I'm confident saying that, the only show still to this day that previews every single NHL game all season long. And we wanted to give you guys a way to support us because your support as a member to the YouTube channel now by clicking the join button for $9.99 a month allows us to keep doing this show moving forward. And what we will deliver for you guys that are members and subscribers of the channel is tons of exclusive bonus content. The stuff that you're used to will not change. It'll be public. It'll be free for all. The daily live show, the monthly betcasts now till January, the weekly betcasts February to June once football season ends. But what you'll get with the exclusive content is you'll get our daily card. Alex and I will post it there in the community tab on the YouTube channel for members that are part of the channel, just like we've done on the Patreon page the last few years. We'll have exclusive videos, maybe a live show that we, that's an extra one that we'll throw out there for everyone that's subscribed to the channel. And most importantly, we always have had people say to us, you know what, we love the betcast so much. but we wish you'd do more of them, not just once a month, October to January, or once a week, February to June. Well, we might drop an impromptu live betcast for members only for our Ice Guys family plan members, and just any random night where it's just Alex is around, I'm around, we're just watching the games, and bam, we could hit up a live betcast just like that, and maybe give you a couple of periods of the early games or something like that. Probably won't be one of those 6-hour marathon betcast deals like we have with our regular betcasts, but we'll throw them on, and we'll do something like that many times throughout the course of the season. We're also going to have a lot of our our written content put maybe in video form, power ratings that I put out, Alex's goalie charts, which a lot of you guys have known he has done that for years. We can do a little video analysis, if you will, talking about our logic and our thought process behind putting that together. We'll also post some live bets, throughout the course of a busy NHL night. Maybe there's something that, stands out, a great opportunity. We'll post some live wagers as well in the members only portion of the community tab on the YouTube channel. So there's just so many things that we have planned, so many ideas and concepts that we have in mind for exclusive content, for bonus content, for our Ice Guys family plan members. So if you want to support the channel, again, there it is, the Ice Guys family plan. You can sign up to that just by clicking the join button for $9.99 US per month. And we're going to be giving you a lot of bonus content, more Ice Guys than ever before. That will be without a doubt for this upcoming season. And that's why Alex and I are so excited for the start of this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we've been trying to kind of work through this for the last couple of seasons. Of course, now that we're back on track with the full regular season start in October, we've gotten through all of the craziness of the schedules from the last couple of years, and now we can finally sit down and plan things out. So, like I said, Ian and I have been going over this the whole summer, and to have this layout coming out now, and it just seems like it's the best thing for everybody. We want to give you guys as much content as possible and show you just how much we appreciate all of you guys' support and watching us. So. Like I said, being in to jump in live and do different things, like with the live bets that I offer, I'll be doing some plenty of live videos, and like I said, explaining why I'm making certain changes to my different power rankings and goalie charts. Maybe if I'm hearing things about injuries or guys possibly being called up, all that information we'll be able to just detail in the video form. If you still like the written form and just want to have a copy on hand, you can download that from our Patreon or the YouTube page as well. So like I said, we're just offering a bunch of different information that all of it's there to help you guys win and to give you guys as much content as possible.
And that is definitely what we will be aiming to do. There's no question. Again, we're looking forward to giving you a lot of brand new content throughout the course of the season. The nice thing about doing the preview show ahead of time is because now that we're on to game day, we have 3 games on tap tonight. We don't have to worry about, giving out, our thoughts, although we will ask our guest Brett when he joins us at the end of the show what his Stanley Cup final pick is, because we always want to get everybody on board to give us one of those. So we're looking forward to it. We've got our first game now to talk about for the 2023-2024 NHL season. It gets underway. Now, note the start time. Again, with this triple header, this game will begin at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. It's the first game of the triple header, and all these games, of course, on ESPN in the U.S., Sportsnet in Canada. Nashville taking on Tampa Bay. We've got the Tampa Bay Lightning -160 home favorites. The total here 6.5, currently shaded to the under. I think briefly it was 6, and then it ended up moving to 6.5, but it looks like right now it's 6.5 across the board. And speak of the devil, we were just talking about him a minute ago. Here he is, our good friend down in sunny Florida, Brett Pepler, back with us to help us ring in the new year, if you will, for the NHL. Brett, it's good to see you again. How was your summer?
Sorry, fellas, I was late. Traffic, noon hour traffic here.
Oh, that's okay. Wow, that traffic is everywhere. Doesn't matter what city or what place you're in. You're going to get into some shit with traffic jams at some point, no doubt. How's the summer been? How are you How's the school going? As you're trying to develop this second coming of Connor McDavid, Connor Bedard, and all these great players of the future.
It's been going good. The summer was good. It was pretty busy. I was here for most of the summer, but I went home to Canada for about 2 or 3 weeks. Worked with a lot of kids there in where I'm from in Saskatchewan, and It's been good, man. It's same thing. Hockey's picking up. It's this season just started. It's October. It started in September. A ton of new kids have been signing up and stuff. So it's all good. It's continuing to rise. And it's just getting bigger.
The funny story is Brett played hockey for a long time. Obviously, he's excited for the start of the NHL season. But he also said to me about a week ago that I'm really into football right now because football is, and everybody loves NFL football, of course. And I'm really going to be into the Blue Jays here and their playoff run. Well, the playoff run ended before you could blink, essentially.
They shit the bed.
Yeah,
they terrible. Did. Yeah.
Embarrassing it was. So I guess now a little bit more excited about hockey now that the Blue Jays basically said, our season – played that poorly in their series against the Minnesota Twins. So it is what it is. We're excited, though, to have hockey back. Nashville, Tampa Bay. Look, there's a lot to dissect here with with both of these teams. Let's start with Nashville. The thing with the Nashville Predators is last year we saw them basically transition into a team that's starting to rebuild, retool a little bit. New GM Barry Trotz, who has now handpicked his new head coach, Andrew Brunette. And look, Brett, Andrew Burnett, someone that coached down where you were, the Florida Panthers, obviously, previously. I'm glad he's being given another chance. I've said this before. I thought the Florida Panthers kind of threw him under the bus for that second-round exit against Tampa Bay. And that was the year they barely got past Washington as well in the first round. And the power play that was so great in the regular season for the Panthers was so awful, in the playoffs. And they kind of put the blame on Burnett, when they canned him that year. So I'm glad he's getting another opportunity here with the Nashville Predators. When you look at this Predators team, number one storyline is that Philip Forsberg's healthy. This is a guy that was obviously plagued by injuries last year for the Panthers, for the Predators, I should say. Back to full health, though. Last year was relegated to just 50 games. Still had 42 points in those 50 games for the Nashville Predators. But it looks like he's healthy right now. If you've been watching Nashville in the preseason, looks like he's really looking, like he's got his full component of health back, which is significant. He'll be back on that top line. We've got our old friend, O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ryan O'Reilly is now a member of the Nashville Predators. And look, Ryan O'Reilly's going to give this team a lot, right? A lot of intangibles, two-way center, win good on the face-off circle. His offensive game is not what it once was. And I question whether he's a number one center because that's where he's slotted in to begin this season, is a number one center role. I'm not so sure. I mean, I like him as a number two center at this stage of his career. I don't know about number one center because you got to have, the defensive responsibilities, yes, and he has those, but you really got to be able to produce offensively if you're going to be in the 1C spot. And we're going to have to see if Ryan O'Reilly can still do that here at a high level for the Predators. They've got a bunch of kids that showed some promise for the future. Opportunity for them to hopefully grow and continue to develop this season, which Barry Trotz has made no bones about. It's a development year for the Nashville Predators. They're trying to get these young players to continue to progress as NHLers like Juuso Parssinen, Cody Glass, Kiefer Sherwood, Philip Tomasino, Luke Evangelista, Tommy Novak, the guy that we cashed some props with last year. I mean, these are guys that really stepped up for Nashville down the stretch last year. Remember when we thought Nashville was going to kick rocks after the trade deadline and just go away? But they ended up hanging in there and almost made the playoffs. And a lot of the play of these young kids was a big reason for that. So you give them credit for hanging in there. Their blue line is not bad. They add Luke Schenn, a good physical, steady in his own end presence on the blue line. Tyson Barrie played solidly since they got him in the Ekholm deal with Edmonton. Yossi still can play at a high level. McDonough, of course, has that winning experience from Tampa Bay. It's actually not a bad blue line. The question is UC Saros, Kevin Lankin, and the goalie duo. Saros was excellent last year. Is he going to be capable of duplicating that type of season for Nashville? He's going to have to for them. Tampa Bay, on the flip side, when you look at them, we alluded to this on the preview show. I don't think they've got the four-line quality depth they once had. Last year, 2 years ago, we thought this team 1 through 12 on the forward group was just as good as you could ask for. I mean, they have Stamkos, Point, Kucherov, Hagel, Cirelli, and Tyler Mott to begin this season. But you start to go to that bottom six forward group, and they bring in the Luke Glendening. They've got Tanner Jeannot, who struggled once he got traded from Nashville to Tampa Bay. Connor Sheary's a nice add. Nick Paul's solid. Can they get the Mikey Eyssimont that showed up in San Jose? Because when Eyssimont got moved to Tampa Bay, he really didn't do a whole lot for them. See if he can step up. I don't think they've got quite the forward depth as they've had in the past. Same, you can probably be said for the blue line when you look at what they have there. We know Hedman and Sergachev are going to be the stalwarts. Nick Perbix, actually, I thought for as much as I was worried about his play, he got better as the season went on. And Eric Chernak, shot blocker, eats a lot of pucks, physical, good in his own end. But then you've got Darren Radish, you got Calvin DeHaan, who's had some injury issues. You got Hayden Fleury. So there's some questions about the blue line depth for Tampa. And then in net, it's the biggest question. Absolutely. With Andrei Vasilevsky sidelined with this emergency surgery he had to have done. And now all of a sudden you've got Jonas Johansson being thrust into a number one goaltending role for this team, basically out of necessity, and we're going to see now. Here's the thing. John Cooper and a lot of his teammates were impressed with Johansson in the preseason. And he did. If you actually look at Johansson's numbers in the preseason, he played well. But this reminds me of what Robert Saleh was saying last year before the season started about Zach Wilson with the New York Jets, talking about how really he was looking confident, had control, command of the offense in preseason. And what happened to Zach Wilson in the regular season last year? Oh, yeah, shit the bed, played awful. Horrendous, in fact. So, yeah, they're saying that Jonas Johansson's playing well here in the preseason. Let me see it in a meaningful game. Let me see it in the regular season here. That's going to end up being the big question. So this is a fascinating game. Not best bet material, but I have a couple of small bets here. I took a shot with the Predators team total here. I got a 2.5 at -135 for the Predators to go over their team total. All they need is 3 goals. And keep in mind, too, Tampa Bay is changing their defensive structure a little bit. Apparently, they're making some changes on the system related to the defense, to the blue line. And there were some games in the preseason where they're giving up 40, 50 shots. So keep that in mind. And if Johansson's going to face that kind of rubber, that's going to be a big challenge for him. And I know Nashville's not the kind of team we expect to light up the scoreboard throughout the season. But tonight, with these defensive changes, scheme changes, system changes, makeshift blue line, some changes with the depth on the Tampa blue line, questions about Johansson and net. I think it's an opportunity for Nashville to maybe get 3 goals here, and a healthy Philip Forsberg certainly helps that. So I like that team total more than anything here. Nashville over 2.5. And I prefer that than the money line because I don't want to worry about Tampa Bay, what they do in terms of offense here against Nashville, because I do have some questions about them. So just focus on Nashville, maybe being able to take advantage of this as questionable a D and goaltending tandem as we've seen here for Tampa to start a season. So Predators team total for me over 2.5. Alex, what do you think here to get the party started for the new season? Preds, Lightning.
Yeah, this would have been a much more interesting matchup with Andrei Vasilevsky at net because you're talking about 2 of the best goalies in the league in Saros and Vasilevsky going head to head. I would be probably looking at, a under, be looking at a draw. But now we're talking about Jonas Johansson. And I mentioned it on the Edgework podcast. I was in the chat watching that this morning. And I said, the drop off between Andrei Vasilevsky and Jonas Johansson is like you went from having a steak at Ruth's Chris to having a cold Whopper from Burger King. Like it's that far apart in my book. I haven't had a further goalie split from 1 to 2 in quite some time than last year or before the injury when I had them ranked during the preseason. I had a 40-cent drop off between Vasilevsky and Johansson because he's just not that good. Every location he's been, we've heard of him struggling. Now we're hearing of him finally getting his mechanics together. He is with a new goaltending coach. Like you said, it's a new defense in front of him. But if he reverts back even slightly to what he's been the last few years, and this team's now giving up 45-plus shots a game, it's going to be ugly. And I know there's a lot of people who are saying, well, okay, Vasilevsky's only gone 8 to 10 weeks. Tampa Bay could still stay afloat long enough to where, they stay in the race and be a playoff team. But when you're talking about 8 to 10 weeks, and keep in mind, this is a back surgery where he's got to recover 8 to 10 weeks. That's not counting more than likely he's going to have to do a rehab stint with Syracuse in the AHL and get back to skating and feeling himself again. When you talk about a goaltender with your back, that's like a goaltender with his groin. Those are significant things that have to be worked out. Otherwise, they can just keep nagging you for the rest of your career. So you're talking 12 weeks missing him out of 27 weeks in the season. That's a tough ask. And when you're talking about it, either Jonas Johansson or Matt Tompkins, who I'm certainly not really sold on, even though they said, once again, he's had a great training camp. We got to see it in real time. So we won't be able to get the true value of the Tampa Bay Lightning until probably 5 or 6 games in. Once we see this rotation of Johansson and Tompkins, are they going to play tighter defense in front of them, knowing they don't have 88 to rely on back there? Will that take away from the offense? We talk about that all the time, how teams get so locked down defensively, they forget to score, which I think is going to be a Nashville issue. It was last year, most certainly this year, because as you talked about, their depth is not really there. They don't have guys who can score on that third and fourth line that are reliable. And Nashville is obviously built to play defense. Roman Josi is one of the best in the league. I mentioned UC Saros. If he can match up to even close to the same level of last season, he'll be fine. Where are the goals going to come from? That's what I'm worried about. Like, I get your Nashville look. That's the only way I would be looking to back Nashville as a team. Definitely wouldn't take a money line with them. I would go team total over. But I just don't know if there's going to be a drive to get the offense rolling. I think everybody's going to be worried more about the back end, and we see this with games in the first couple of games in the season, right? You either see things that are wide open, teams know exactly what they want to do, or teams are still trying to figure things out. Like you said, with Tampa having a new defensive scheme, Nashville not having much offense, I still would lean toward betting the under here. So at 6.5, that's my only look as of right now. I don't have anything official, but that's the closest thing I'm coming to betting with this game.
Well, what's concerning is this new defensive structure and scheme that Tampa Bay is putting in. It's a work in progress. I mean, there's games they're giving up 52 shots on goal in the preseason, and some of those games they had, pretty much their regular lineup or close to it in the preseason. They're giving up that many shots, and that's concerning. Now, Nashville could be a Calgary type this year. Nashville's going to have some of those Calgary Flames type of performances from last year. 40 shots on goal and 1 goal scored. That's something you could see. I like what our guy Nick Earl, and Nick Earl, by the way, Earl Sports Bets in our chat. We thank him for becoming a member.
Thank you.
Ice Guys Family Plan. He's, of course, our good friend. He's on our show before as a guest and also on the betcasts many, many times. So good to see Nick Earl. Thanks for joining the channel. I agree with his thought about the Johansson saves prop, and which leads right into props. I'll save my prop opinions on this game for after we hear from Brett. What do you think here, my friend Brett? Nashville, Tampa Bay tonight.
Well, on Saturday night, I went to the Panthers and the Lightning in Florida, the last exhibition game. And just what you guys are saying, the goalie, Jonas Johansson, he let in some pretty weak goals. He looked not bad in there. He's big. He covers a lot of the net. Lomberg walked over the blue line and just shot a little muffin, went in, was one of the goals. So it's going to be tough to say, with Vasilevsky out. They, like you guys said, they could be struggling for a little bit there. Their forwards looked okay. Their D was okay. That Darren Radish, he looked pretty good. He played a lot of minutes. Sergachev, Hedman, they looked good. Their forwards looked all right. Kucherov, Stamkos, Braden Point looked really good. So I think Tampa will be all right once, it gets rolling. They looked a little rough, even though it was preseason, but the passes were off, stuff like that. But I think they'll be okay. Nashville, I was looking at their roster last night. I don't think they're going to be very good at all. I was listening to a show, and they were talking about if they should be trading Juicy Saros there. See how the season goes for a little bit, then he might be on the block. But, yeah, other than Yossi, O'Reilly, Forsberg, I know Yossi and Forsberg, they really love Nashville, the city, the people, all that kind of stuff. So it'd be really hard for them to leave there. But other than that, I don't think they really have much to work with looking at their roster. So I'm going to say Tampa's going to win this game. I'm going to say with the over, and I don't think Nashville is going to have a very good year unless these guys really step up and surprise, and maybe they gel, and maybe with the new coach, like you were saying there, Brunette, he did a really good job 2 years ago with the Panthers. He didn't really get a fair shake there. They used some kind of story in the end there that's why they lost out and all that kind of stuff. They went to the strippers when they were down 3-0, then they lost.
That too, yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah, we appreciated that here.
Yeah, so that kind of was
that was the crux of Alex's biggest
yeah,
piece of profit in that playoff season. Yeah.
So I think he'll be good. I think Trotz will be a good GM and he'll be a good coach, but they need to get some guys in there. And I know they're doing a rebuild, but you have like Saros, Yossi, Forsberg. Those guys are looking to win a cup. They're in their prime. They're still, early 30s or whatever they are. But I think it's going to be a rough season for the Predators. So that's what I would say.
I think it will be too. I think that I obviously don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they'll be feisty. I think they'll be, there's going to be nights where they work hard. The work ethic will be there because you don't bring in O'Reilly, Shen, and some of these veterans who they know how to play. They know they bring it every night as far as effort's concerned, and that can, instill, what the way to be as a pro to these young players on the team. But at the end of the day, you got to put the puck in the net. There's probably not enough game breakers for Nashville, especially if Forsberg has another injury situation like last year. Alex's point in the chat is 100%. And there we go. I'm going to put the comment up on the screen just because it's 100% right. Any major injuries to Kucherov or Hedman, and I'll throw Sergachev in there, especially from as far as the blue line is concerned. Yeah. If Hedman and or Sergachev or both get injured and miss time, that's huge because this blue line no longer has that immediate, this guy is going to be able to fill those shoes, fill those minutes, Phil being able to play in every situation at a high level on the blue line without Hedman and Sergachev. And look, they were healthy last year. I think 76 games for Hedman, 78, I believe, for Sergachev last year. So these two guys were able to stay healthy last year for this team. And all I can say is better hope that happens again, because after you get past those two on the blue line for Tampa Bay, Hedman at 76 games last year. Yeah, Sergachev 79. So they stayed healthy last year. But can that happen again? And there's a huge, huge concern for Tampa Bay if one or both of those guys misses time on the back end.
And you know what? There's a comparison, and Jarek Rubin made it in the chat. He said if they could fall off like how the 2017-18 Hawks did when they were missing Crawford at the beginning of the year. But I think the better comparison with this team is Pittsburgh 4 years ago. What is the thing we've been talking about with the Pittsburgh Penguins all the years that they were dominant during their dynasty, and then what changed was the depth players that they had. If they had guys go down, they became regulars. So when they got hurt, nobody filled in for them. So that's where Tampa is really at right now. All the depth they had that helped them win cups in the last couple of years, helped them make those deep playoff runs going all the way back to 2015. Those guys are either gone or they're the players that are currently the role play, the top stars and key players. So there are no role players. There is no depth in Syracuse if anyone gets hurt right now. So yeah, it's a major problem. They're one of the weaker teams, and that's a spot they're not used to being in.
Yeah, there's no doubt. As far as my props for the game tonight are concerned, like obviously when you're talking about any sort of points props for the Lightning players, I mean, you're always talking about these, minus 200 prices for your Point and Kucherov and Stamkos. And, it's very, very difficult to back those unless you put them in some kind of parlay. But for Nashville, there's a couple that stand out. More so the point props. I mean, Thomas Novak was a point machine last year. He's around minus 110, even money to get a point in the game tonight. I don't mind taking a look at that. The one guy I think that's going to find the back of the net tonight for Nashville, if they are able to get some offense going, it's obviously Forsberg. Like you can get upwards of plus 220, plus 200 for him to score a goal, plus 210 at FanDuel. It's actually a pretty good price for a guy that we know is probably going to have to be the best player offensively for Nashville. And what I've also noticed about Forsberg in the preseason, do you know he was tied for second in the NHL in shots on goal per game during the preseason? This guy was shooting the puck a lot. So that has me on Forsberg's shots on goal over 2.5. Now it is minus 150. That price was a little bit cheaper earlier, but I still like it. Forsberg over 2.5 shots on goal here for the Nashville Predators, minus 150. This is a guy, again, that during the preseason averaged 5.3 shots on goal per game. So I think a pretty good chance to get to 3 shots on goal, and a Tampa Bay team that, as we talked about, they were giving up a lot of shots in the preseason as they transition to this new look defensive system that they're trying to play. So some shots on goal props for Nashville might be worth a look. The Johansson saves as well, but especially Forsberg over 2.5 shots on goal, minus 150. I think that's a really good SOG prop on the Nashville side here tonight. All right, next game, we've got Chicago and Pittsburgh. This is your primetime game, the second game of the triple header on ESPN, and the debut, of course, of Connor Bedard. Pittsburgh minus 250, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Alex and I talked about his Blackhawks on the previous show and mentioned offensively, there's going to be at least some hope for this team because of because of Connor Bedard, because they've added Taylor Hall, a legitimate skilled forward to play alongside him on that top line. The question for Chicago is beyond that tandem, beyond that line, does Tyler Johnson still have something in the tank? We'll see. Does Lucas Reichel take a huge step forward this year? We'll see. I actually like Taylor Radish. I'm not too worried. I think Taylor Radish will have a nice season. They're going to start him in a top 6 role, playing on the second line for the Chicago Blackhawks. And it looks like Andreas Athanasiou last year for Chicago ended up with 20 goals, 20 assists. That's what you're hoping for from him this year. Like, get 20 goals, help this team out offensively. I know they like Cole Gutman, who did not get a lot of time last year, 14 games, 6 points for Chicago. He'll be on the third line, Boris Kachuk as well on that line as well. And then you've got the veteran group on the fourth line, which is actually, I think, the chance to be an effective line. They all know how to play. Even Jason Dickinson at times last year was a bit of a bright light for the Chicago team offensively. Foligno, of course, brought in the offseason, and Perry, again, veteran presence to help out, this young team. And of course, Connor Bedard in particular. But this blue line's got all kinds of question marks. When you look at it, they're starting the season with Seth Jones and Alex Vlasic, basically a 22-year-old defenseman who's only played 21 games at the NHL level. Played mostly last year at Rockford in the AHL. But man, I'm telling you what, he might be solid in time, but we're going to ask him to play a number 1 pair on the blue line here with Seth Jones right away. I mean, that's asking a lot. That's putting a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility on Alex Vlasic's shoulders right away here for Chicago. I don't know. We'll see if he can handle it. Kevin Korchinski's going to be a good one, but again, right away, second pair. Connor Murphy, I always think this guy is capable of so much more, and he's, sometimes kind of underwhelmed here for Chicago on the blue line. And I can't say I love the third pair, Tenorti and Kaiser. That's a plotting pairing. I worry about them in their own zone, being able to keep up with some of the speed that the other players can throw at them. And I do like that Nikita Zaitsev's not playing, but it's not like you got someone leaps and bounds better, on the blue line to play on that third pair right now for Chicago. And then we get to the blue line, which, as Alex has talked about especially, hard to have faith and confidence for 82 games this season with Peter Mrazek and Arvid Soderblom being the 2 netminders you've got to worry about. So I think if Reichel plays well, Radish continues to progress. He had a good finish to last year. Athanasiou gives you 20 goals. You're going to have enough offensively. There's going to be some nights that good defensive teams are going to shut this team down. But now comes to the point that I want to make about Pittsburgh coming into this season and this game tonight. How good are they defensively? Because I said it in the preview show, and I'm saying it now. They've got they've got a Stanley Cup caliber offensive team. They certainly do. And here's the thing that benefits Pittsburgh even more tonight, an even bigger boost is, look, we weren't totally sure that Jake Gensel was going to be good to go for the first game of the season, but he is. He is cleared from his ankle injury, and he will play tonight for the Penguins. So that Crosby, Rust, and Gensel top line is intact. They bring in Riley Smith from the Vegas Golden Knights, a nice addition. We know how well he played there. He's going to be on the second line with Evgeny Malkin and Ricard Raquel. That is suddenly a pretty solid second line. Drew O'Connor, Lars Eller, Jansen Harkins from the Winnipeg Jets, who didn't kind of fell out of favor there a little bit in Winnipeg. He's going to get now a bit of a better opportunity now playing on the third line here with Pittsburgh. Again, a guy with some offensive upside. Nieto, Achari, and Jeff Carter. How about that? In the waning years of his career, down on a fourth line. So it is what it is. That's what you got to do. You got to be like a Corey Perry, and Jeff Carter is following that same trajectory where you can't bitch and moan. You're now in the twilight years of your career. You've got to accept it, and you've got to realize that probably a fourth line or a depth forward role is where I'm at right now at this stage of his career. And Jeff Carter's a pro. He's not going to be one of those people that complains about it. He's going to do the right thing on behalf of the hockey team. And you know what? I think he'll be solid in that role, in my opinion, down on the fourth line. I like a lot of what I see from the forward group. I think this team's going to have the capability of scoring goals. The power play is going to be good when you bring in an Erik Karlsson obviously in the offseason, and his 100 points from last year. And Chris Letang's always been a great power play quarterback type from the blue line on that power play. But defensively, I've got major concerns. As much as I've just praised Letang at the offensive end on the power play, his defensive game was not good last year. There's no question. Ryan Graves, who I like, Colorado, New Jersey, now here in Pittsburgh, they're asking him to be a top pair defenseman now with this team. Is he ready for that? Ready for that responsibility? That's going to be a big question mark. Marcus Pettersson's probably the best defensive, stay-at-home, steady defenseman they have. And we know Carlson is all about the offense, not so much the defense. It's been that way, for much of his career. So what are you going to get from him in his own end? And then that third pairing is, Pierre-Olivier Joseph and Chad Ruido, who are marginal defensemen. They're all right. They're not great. So this team's ability to keep the puck out of the net concerns me. And I don't think 1 through 6, this is anything like the Vegas blueprint, where they've got shutdown defenders littering the blue line. Pittsburgh doesn't have that. And I wonder if Jari and Nedeljkovic, the two goaltenders for Pittsburgh, maybe they need that kind of defense, because without it, they could be exposed a little bit and struggle a bit more, face more high danger chances. So we'll see, though. Definitely when you look at it, it's a lot of makeshift going on, a lot of changing going around on that blue line for Pittsburgh. And that's my biggest concern for them, not only tonight, but moving forward, their ability to keep the puck out of the net. So I like this over the total here. I had Pittsburgh circled as an over team as far as the totals are concerned in their games early on, and the same thing for the Chicago Blackhawks. So we're going to put it to the test right away here with these two teams and go up and over 6.5 here with the Blackhawks and the Penguins. I think a pretty good chance we see goals both ways in this matchup tonight. And it is worth noting, last year, 2 head-to-head meetings, Chicago and Pittsburgh, 5-3, 5-2. The final scores in those games, both of them going up and over the total. So over 6.5 for me. Blackhawks, Penguins at around current price with that. So it's actually, the juice has gone up significantly, pretty much minus 125 now across the board with this Blackhawks, Penguins over 6.5. Alex, your Blackhawks are back and they take on the Penguins tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, and of course, all eyes are going to be on number 98, Connor Bedard, and the matchup with him and Sidney Crosby. ESPN's drooling over themselves. They had them, sit down and do an interview with each other and everything in the off season. That's been the ad that's running.
How great they are and all that.
Right,
that's going to be
yeah.
a puke fest. I'm sorry, I know what they're doing, but that's going to be
a
vomit-inducing segment for me. Probably.
That's and it's like I thought we gotten over this when the Ovechkin Crosby battles. We always kind of talked about how NBC Sports they just loved hyping this up like it was Ali Frazier, like it was fucking insane. Like they aren't going against each other; it's two teams battling. And so I digress from the point. The Pittsburgh Penguins missed the playoffs for the first time in 16 years last year. And part of the reason was the domino effect that happened when they lost at home to these Chicago Blackhawks, a worse Chicago Blackhawks team, in my opinion, and lost control of their destiny. Florida, went on their magical run. The rest is history. Now they get to be right back in the same building against the same team with a completely different mindset. They're going all in. Kyle Dubas was not screwing around. He made the trade to bring Erik Karlsson in. I was kind of joking around looking at the ages of some of these guys, Jeff Carter and Letang and Crosby and Malkin. I'm sure they wanted to play the 4:30 p.m. start rather than this middle start, so they can maybe get to that, that early dinner and then get to bed a little bit. But this is the whole team, and they know that they don't have time left. My point. They're going all in right now, and I'm sure Crosby is one of those guys. He remembers just about everything. If you hear him in interviews, he's one of those guys that really takes things to heart. I'm sure he didn't like missing the playoffs one bit. I'm sure he remembers the fact that they played poorly against this Hawks team in that spot, and everything collapsed from there on. So they can make amends right now. It's hard to call this a necessarily revenge spot, but I think this is just more of a get back spot for Pittsburgh to say, hey, let's clear what happened last year. Let's get back on track. Let's get to the postseason. Let's start off with 2 points here and now. I'm not betting the full game because I'm not laying 250. That's a crazy price. I laid the first period puck line with Pittsburgh minus $1.25. So I lay in the half a goal there. I've also split a unit between 3 player props on the Blackhawks side. I like Taylor Hall to score a goal at plus 290. I also like his shots over 2.5 at plus 130. Just had a kid a couple of days ago. We was talking about that new dad angle, and he seems to be really jazzed up, not only because of that, but just to be with a new team. He knows the hype around Connor Bedard, his line mate, and the gel, that we've seen between the two of them so far in preseason has been great. They're passing and moving the puck together very nicely. I think Bedard is going to be the one to set up Hall. So I also like Connor Bedard to get an assist at plus 170. I know everybody's looking for him to get the goal right away. I actually have a bet on him to score his first goal in Montreal on Saturday at plus 420, something I bet over at FanDuel about a month and a half ago. So I don't think he's going to get a goal tonight. And I think there will be a lot of scoring in this game, but 98 is going to get on the score sheet with an assist. So give me that at plus 170 along with Taylor Hall to score a goal at 290. Taylor Hall over 2.5 shots at plus 130, and Penguins to get out of the first period with a lead minus $1.25.
All right, there we go. And I like a lot of those props. Look, I can't give you Connor Bedard over 2.5 shots. I really like that prop too, with Connor to get, because Connor in his first game, I think, is actually, the adrenaline will be flowing through his veins. It's his first NHL game. And this is someone that averaged 4 shots on goal per game in the preseason for Chicago, Connor Bedard. And actually his shot attempts per game were even higher than that. So I think asking him to get 3 shots on goal is not asking a lot. The problem is, guess when I bet that Connor Bedard over 2.5 shots on goal prop? Yesterday afternoon. Do you know what the price was on that yesterday afternoon? Minus 120. Do you know what the price is on that now? I'm seeing FanDuel as minus 235 for Connor Bedard over 2.5 shots on goal. It's moved a shit ton. So you can't bet it now. As far as, or if you're going to bet it, you got to look at an alternative number like a 3.5. And try to get plus money on it and take a chance there. But no, I love the Bedard shots prop, but man, it's just moved way too much from when I bet it yesterday. And now it's like, it's at least minus 170, minus 180 at most books. And like I say, some have over minus 200 now on Bedard over.
And wait, just one thing, I misspoke on the price quote of that. Pittsburgh, that's minus a half a goal plus 125. So I'm laying the goal. Yep. So just in case I misspoke on that, because I think I said minus 25 for the price, so it's plus 125, laying the half a goal in the first.
And you mentioning Connor Bedard to get an assist speaks exactly to what I was saying throughout the offseason and the preview show, that I think Bedard is a better chance to go over his points prop this year than goals prop. Yeah, I think he's going to be one of those players. We saw it in the preseason, more assists than goals from Connor Bedard in the preseason. So there's going to be great value on the, everyone's going to think Bedard, he's going to score left and right. No, he's going to facilitate too. He is a great passer. Now on the power play, if he sees that the shooting lane isn't there for him, he is totally all right with passing to a teammate and on the power play or 5-on-5, whatever the case may be, and trying to set them up. So, and you're going to get greater value, obviously, with that assist prop compared to the point prop. The point prop is like minus 140 or minus 150 for Bedard tonight, but the assist prop is plus, as Alex mentioned, plus 170, plus 180 at Pinnacle. So really good price on Bedard to get an apple tonight in his NHL debut. Brett, what do you think here? Blackhawks, Penguins.
Blackhawks, Penguins, boys. I look at the Hawks and I'm like, they got Connor Bedard, they got Taylor Hall. I think they're going to have a hard time scoring, even though they have Connor Bedard. So, Connor Bedard is amazing. You have to see him live, obviously, to see what he brings to the table. But, after a few games here in the regular season, I think with the big boys, they're going to get a lot of video on him. I think they're going to be able to shut him down a bit tonight. I'm going to say he's going to have a goal. He's going to be hyped up. Sid's going to be after him. I'm not sure if they're going to match lines or what are they going to do, but Sid's going to be controlling him. You know what I mean? So he's going to have a tough game, especially if he's playing center on that line with Taylor Hall. I think it's going to be a tight game. Pittsburgh, like you said, Pittsburgh's all in. They have some older guys. They still have a good team. Crosby, not saying he ever fell off the map. He's amazing. I watched him last year, my first time ever watching him. He's still amazing. You see NHL.com puts out the top 50 players. He's still number 7 or number 8. So he had issues in the past, but he's still amazing. Malkin, if he's healthy, he's going to be really good. Jeff Carter, I don't think he's going to sit on that fourth line too long. I think he's going to move up a bit, maybe to the third line. It's going to be a high scoring game tonight. I'm going to say like about a 6-5 Pittsburgh game, some very sloppy D, like Chicago, besides Seth Jones, who the fuck are some of these D-man they have, they have to prove themselves.
It's
And
a really
same
good
with
question,
Pittsburgh.
actually.
Yeah. Like, to be honest, man, if you look at some of these rosters, like Nashville, when I looked at theirs, I know some of those guys were young and they were in the minors last year, but you don't know a lot of the guys. Same with Chicago. Like, I think Chicago, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to go out and make a couple deals just to get a couple more legit guys, or else they're going to be in trouble. Taylor Hall's a good guy to play with Bedard, but you might need someone, not Corey Perry, maybe a little bit more unseasoned, I guess you could say, just to have someone on that line as well with him, and they've got to get another D and possibly a goalie, because you don't want to be getting shelled every night. But you never know. You never know till the puck drops and see what happens. And same with Pittsburgh. I have trust in Pittsburgh. I know Dubas is there, but they also have Brian Burke overseeing him. So I don't think Brian Burke's going to throw in all the cards on the table if he doesn't feel they have a chance. And I know that's a lot of loyalty to Sid and Malkin and those guys, and Letang, who's been there their whole career. But I think if they can put it together and stay healthy, which is a huge thing, staying healthy, they could be, you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
So, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh tonight in a high scoring affair.
There you go, Pittsburgh and over 6.5. Liking that you said 6.5 Pittsburgh. And if you want, sprinkle a little bit on the correct score prop if you want with that, with the 6.5 final. There are a few Pittsburgh props that I'm going with. I'm going with two of the Gensel being back has thrown this off a little bit. You could see him contributing a little bit, but I'm going to go with the two guys that have been the mainstays, obviously. Frickin' Frack here up front. Down the middle for the Pittsburgh Penguins here for how long? It's been, almost 20 years. Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin. Goal and an assist for both of them tonight in this game. And I actually like Crosby's over shots on goal prop as well. Crosby's one of those players where you got to pick and choose your spots when it comes to going over the shot prop for him. But I think tonight's one of those nights he really wants to play well. He knows Bedard's on the other side. And I know that they're going to make nice and have this little kumbaya and wonderful love-in, if you will, love fest with this interview spot that ESPN's got planned with the two of them. But when that puck drops, Sidney Crosby's going to want to still show the young buck that, hey, I was, the franchise, the face of the league at one point, the biggest face of the league at one point, and I still want to show that I've got a lot of gas left in that engine. And I think you're going to see that from Sidney Crosby here tonight. So Crosby, the goal prop, by the way, I'll want to throw out the prices here. The goal prop best you can get is around plus 140 at Caesars. As far as the assist prop, minus 110 at BetMGM for Crosby. And then for Malkin, the goal prop is at plus 210. Betano has probably the best price with the goal prop for Evgeny Malkin. And then the assist prop for Malkin, minus 105. At Bet99. So goal and an assist, 4 bets there. Goal, assist props for both Crosby and for Malkin tonight. And I also like Crosby over 2.5 shots on goal. I got minus 150 on it. I think it's even gone up a little since then, the juice. So it's getting up there now over minus 170 or so. But I still think good chance we see 3 shots on goal tonight, at least from Sid. I love how they keep calling him Sid the Kid, because we've just been ingrained in our brains to call him Sid the Kid from his very first day in the NHL. He's not a kid anymore, guys. Like, he's only a couple of years younger than me, and I consider myself getting old. So, yeah, he ain't a kid anymore. Time to kind of put that in the drawer, if you will, calling him that. All right, we got our final game. You know what? For all the talk about, Tampa Bay is involved tonight, Chicago and Pittsburgh, lots of offensive talent, Connor Bedard's first game. This might be the best game of the night coming up here, the late game. In Vegas as the defending Stanley Cup champions. The Vegas Golden Knights raise their Stanley Cup banner, get their rings, and have that pregame ceremony that the Stanley Cup champs have in their first game of the season at home, hosting the Seattle Kraken. Vegas minus 170, home favorites, 6 the total here in this one. Of course, Vegas, what more needs to be said than we've already said all summer about how just impressive they were up front. All 4 lines are strong. And even this year losing Riley Smith, and you still look at that forward group, and it's still really good. And the reason why they had to move out Smith is because they were up against the cap. They just couldn't keep him. And they wanted to re-sign Close Shave Barbashev. They wanted to re-sign Ivan Barbashev. And now they've got him and Jack Eichel and Jonathan Marchessault back together again, which had great chemistry throughout the playoffs last year. Chandler Stevenson, Mark Stone together on the second line, this time with Brett Howden, taking the spot of the vacated spot left by Riley Smith, who's moved on to Pittsburgh. Paul Cotter, William Karlsson, Michael Amadio making up the third line. And then there's that fourth line that was just terrific. Every time that fourth line in the playoffs last year, Will Carrier, Nicholas Watt, and Keegan Colasar were on the ice. They made it happen. They got in on the forecheck, kept pucks alive in the offensive zone, good defensively at the other end. It's that same great four lines of depth Vegas once again should have this year. The blue line, 1 through 6, as good as you could ask for, with two, though, interesting and notable absences, at least for this game tonight, with Alec Martinez placed on IR with an upper body injury, as well as Zach Whitecloud placed on IR as well, upper body injury. Both of these players look like they're going to be week to week at this point, so they're both going to miss some time, Whitecloud and Martinez. The question is going to be, Ben Hutton and Braden Pahal are going to take over in the third pairing on defense for the Golden Knights. They like both of these guys. Are they going to deliver the way Martinez and a Whitecloud have? Whitecloud is, nobody talks about it enough how good he was in the playoffs last year. He was just so good.
Very good.
Yeah, outstanding. Rarely made a bad play with the puck. Poise, made the right play, rarely out of position in his own end. They will miss him way more than people would think for a third pair defenseman, because he plays a lot better, I think, than a normal third pairing defenseman does. So those are significant absences. Martinez, a veteran, Whitecloud's been great. And now there's some pressure on Hutton and Pahal, on the third pair to get the job done and play at that same level, which is not going to be easy. The rest of the blue line, again, Nick Hague was great. Shea Theodore, Alex Pietrangelo, Braden McNabb. So still a very good blue line, with just now a couple of question marks about how that third pairing of Ben Hutton and Braden Pahal are going to play right out of the gate. And of course, Aiden Hill, who has just found an incredible form in the playoffs when he took over for an injured Laurent Brossoit in the playoffs. He will be back and starting in goal for the Vegas Golden Knights this season, including tonight. And Logan Thompson, of course, who finally is now healthy, backing him up. Still a really good team. That being said, here's this Seattle team coming in that Alex and I have been very bullish on coming into this season. A team that I couldn't believe 90.5 was their point total this season. I couldn't believe that they were 50-1, and they were still 50-1 at BetMGM and some other books, FanDuel as well, for winning the Stanley Cup. Disrespect. This is a team that was one win away from the conference finals last year, losing to Dallas, and they came very close, Seattle, to win in that series. And the reason why people at the betting markets are sleeping on Seattle is because there's no superstars. There's not. And that doesn't catch the attention of the broader NHL betting marketplace. That nobody respects that there's no big name superstars, but nobody respects that Jared McCann, Matty Beniers, Jordan Eberle, Jaden Schwartz, Alex Wenberg, Andre Burakovsky, top six is a terrific top six at both ends, offensively and defensively. They don't respect that Eli Tolvanen, not a household name, but when he got to Seattle from Nashville, transformed his game and played excellent for the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gordon, Oliver Bjorkstrand, a fourth line that is just tough as nails to play against. They get under your skin. They're hard on the forecheck. They're good defensively. Brandon Tanev, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. And now they add Kyler Yamamoto from the Edmonton Oilers to that fourth line to give them a little more of an offensive speed dimension as well. It's a great four lines. They've always been able to skate. They're a fast team, and that's always why they've been able to be very good and tough to beat. And then the blue line came of age last year. Vince Dunn, a breakout season for him on the blue line. Adam Larson, who, criticized for kind of underachieving based on his draft status. I thought that was one of his best seasons last year for the Seattle Kraken. Jamie Oleksiak just puts everyone through the boards, through the ice with that physical style of play. Same with Will Borgen. And then you add a guy like Brian Dumoulin, who, there is some question that there's a lot of tread on those tires, if you will, when it comes to Brian Dumoulin, but this is a guy that's got a lot of experience, still the guile and the savvy, I think, to play well in his own end, and certainly has that playoff experience that teams like Seattle are looking for, and they put him with Justin Schultz, who I thought last year had a bounce-back year for Seattle, so I like the blue line 1 through 6. It's not as deep or strong as, say, a Vegas blue line or a Colorado blue line, but they're still pretty good in their own right. And most importantly, Philip Grubauer got back on track last year. He got his game back. He was very good late in the season and even better in the playoffs in net for the Kraken. They like as well Joey Decord, who's going to be the new backup. Coachella Valley Firebirds led that team, Joey Decord, all the way to the Calder Cup final last year. So I think he's ready for this opportunity as the backup. And as much as, Vegas, obviously looking to repeat and be great, will they be great right away? They've got the hoopla going on at T-Mobile Arena involving the banner night and the Stanley Cup championship celebration. I think it really is an opportunity for Seattle to come into Vegas and get a victory here tonight, because I don't think the gap with these two teams is nearly this wide. And I think the situational elements favor Seattle a little bit here on this banner night, which can sometimes be a distraction for the home team. Not to mention, I know Alex and I talked about this a lot last year with Seattle. They were even better on the road last year than they were at home. They were a very, very good road team last year. I would expect more of the same here tonight. I'm going to split this up. Seattle first period and full game money line here in this matchup. Seattle first period, you can get it at a plus 130 price. It was plus 130 earlier. Yeah, plus 130 at Bet99. It's dropped to plus 120 at a couple of books, but you can still get a pretty good plus number on the first period. And you can get as high as plus 145 to plus 150 with Seattle for the full game money line. So I'm going to do a split bet between the two, first period and full game money line here on the Seattle Kraken, which should be a terrific hockey game to wrap up this opening night triple header. Alex, Kraken, Golden Knights.
Yeah, well, that's a genius look to bet the first period too, because we're both thinking in the same direction. We both love the Kraken. They're my team to win the Stanley Cup. So spoiler alert if you haven't watched the season preview, but yeah, I'm really high on the Seattle team, like you said, because they're overshadowed. Not just the fact they don't have any stars on their own team, right? But look at the division they're in and what they're overshadowed by. The defending champions in the Vegas Golden Knights, Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. You're always going to get LA money coming in at a book in Vegas because of this proximity. So there's a reason why Seattle's priced in the markets of the Stanley Cup and the Western Conference where you were able to get so much value. And it seemed a bit disrespectful, but it's like you said, it's all public perception, not necessarily how the books are ranking everything. So you take it with a little bit of grain of salt, and we're fortunate enough to grab 40-1. I have futures for the Kraken over point totals to win division, win conference, and Stanley Cup. This is only the third time I've ever done a sweep like that in a while. And one of those years I actually did win. That was the Blackhawks in 2012, 2013. So maybe I can hit it again here with Seattle, hopefully. And I think it starts with this. Vegas, all right, they have the medieval time show for like 30 minutes before a regular season game. Well, they just won a Stanley Cup. So the banner ceremony that normally takes 45 minutes in every barn is probably going to be about an hour. With who knows what they're going to do. They might have fireworks and trumpets, and it's going to be a grand shit show because it's Vegas, right? That's their whole shit. So now Seattle's sitting there watching this, and teams just get pissed off. Not to mention they just get tired. It breaks their routine. It's just you got to wait for something else to remember over the next 7 or 8 days of games is that every opening night. You got every team, skating, every player out there, all taking the ice, and the intros are going to be a little bit longer. And you sometimes tend to see teams get a little antsy, play a little sloppy because of that, get a little broken from their routine. And I think Seattle's in a prime position where that hyped up crowd and all that energy and all that emotion, Seattle could come in and get a goal early and take the air right out of that building, get out of there with a first period lead and ride that to a win. So I'm right there with you. I like Seattle first period money line. I like Seattle full game money line.
We go. Liking the same stuff there. Seattle first period, full game money line split here in this first game of the season. And again, this is the role and the price range that really I liked Seattle in last year. Road underdog. They were very, very good in this type of role last year. The road record was great. They were even better, I think, as road dogs as opposed to road favorites. And definitely I would expect them to be very live tonight in what should be a really good game against the Vegas Golden Knights. And again, with Vegas, I think if you're going to get Vegas, it's now. Not only, the two injuries on the blue line, Martinez and White Cloud, but also all the fucking partying that they've done all summer with the
Yeah.
Stanley Cup and
Hell,
the party
last
scene
night.
in the USA.
Did
Las
you see
Vegas.
Jack Eichel? Jack
Yeah.
Eichel was so tuned up on halftime of Monday Night Football. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, the several Golden Knights and were there at Allegiant Stadium during the Packers-Raiders game last night, lighting the torch. And you're right, a few of them looked absolutely 3 sheets to the fucking wind, just absolutely bombed, out of their minds already. And they got a game tonight, 24 hours later, to start the NHL regular season. So, like I say, I think situationals definitely favor Seattle a little bit. Brett, what are you thinking here? It's a great game, Seattle-Vegas.
First off, did you boys see the Vegas rings? Those are fucking
wild.
wild.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what those would go for.
Oh, some of the best looking Stanley Cup rings I've seen, honestly. Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe ever. I think when I was looking at it, I think it comes into like a pendant too that you could.
Yeah, you can twist the top. That's something that the Golden State Warriors, I think they were one of the first NBA teams. It twists off and you can wear it as a medallion, and then the inside is and that's like a glass where they do the actual rink surface. So it's super cool. If you haven't seen it, guys, Google it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's going to be their home opener tonight. Have you guys ever went to a game in Vegas? It's absolutely insane in there, So I think no matter what's going on, you should be able to get up for a game in that building, home or on the road, coming in and playing them because it's so wild in there. It's so amped up. Like you guys were saying, White Cloud, he's very good. A team like Chicago, he could be their number 1 or 2 D. A team like Pittsburgh, he could be a very good D if he went to another team. On this team, they're still stacked, in my opinion. They're heavy. That's the biggest thing that was noticeable last year in the final. They're heavy. Marcia Show's not the biggest guy, but he was sniping. The rest of the guys, fast, heavy guys. The NHL is kind of getting away from that style of game. That's how it used to be 10 years ago. The big, not big hitting, but the big heavy bodies out there really grinding you out, like trying to play them in a 7-game series. You feel like you got hit by a fucking car after one game, So they have the same team, the same mentality. Last year, watching them a little bit at the start of the season till like about Christmas, I didn't think they were very good. And my whole opinion of that whole Western Conference was that Edmonton was going to come out of there and that there really wasn't anyone in particular that was, a full-blown number 1 to come out of there. And then they just, grinded it out. And then once they got into the final, they looked amazing. So I think they're gonna roll still with that. Barbashev was really good with them. He played really heavy on the forecheck, got a lot of points, big on that first line with them. So I think they're going to be really good this year. Their goaltending, hard to say. Like Aiden Hill, he's huge too. Logan Thompson had a really good year. Like Logan Thompson was in the All-Star game last year. You know what I mean? They went through like 5 or 6 goalies last year, but like he was number 1 in all the numbers in the league until he got hurt there, and then he kind of just got wiped off the map. So like if he can come back, he's the backup so far. Aiden Hill, like if their goaltending can stick in there and be a decent doer, if they have 3 guys or whatever they're going to do like they did last year, they're going to be hard to beat. Seattle, on the other end, same thing. I didn't really watch Seattle too much last year, but the games I did watch, they were really good. They had a really good system. They have real good leadership with their coach there, Ron Francis as the GM. I think they work hard, and they do have some skilled guys like Matty Beniers. If he continues how he played last year, he is a superstar, I feel. He's really good. Eberle, the last few years before Eberle went to Seattle, it almost looked like he was too slow and that he wasn't going to be very good anymore. Same with Schwartz, 2 good old Sasky boys there. But they're rejuvenated. Eberle's on that first line. Like, he looks unreal. You never know. With that experience, they're both teams who are just new in the league, and obviously Vegas, they got a pretty good bounce there. Their first year, they got a lot of guys they probably shouldn't have, or whatever. People talk about that draft and stuff like that. Where Seattle kind of went a different direction. They didn't get all the stuff that Vegas got, but now they do have a very good team. They're in a situation where now they can grow. They have most of the same players. Grubauer is very good in net. Like he was in Colorado before that. He was Vezina candidate. He was good. So I think it's going to be a good game tonight. It's going to depend on how Vegas, if they had a few last night, they got a lot of publicity. That's what I'm liking, though. I'm obviously watching American TV here, but like the NHL and hockey is getting a lot of publicity. Like you would have never seen in years them going right up to the blonde babe, right up to the set and talking about the Stanley Cup, on Monday Night Football. They would have been like, people would have been like, "What's hockey? What's hockey?" But now it's huge, so it's nice to see the big coverage. So the boys might have got in one last night, but I don't think for Vegas, like if I'm playing with Vegas, I have zero pressure. I just won the cup. Like you guys said, we
Right.
partied all summer. We took it to our family. We had memories for a lifetime. But like those guys last year really started to get roll. Like they were good all year, don't get me wrong, but they really got rolling around Christmas time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yep.
it's not the league isn't a race anymore. Like it's not like how in baseball this year Tampa Bay was amazing to start and then they just kind of fizzled out. You don't want to do that. So hockey, it's such a grind, the travel, the body, it's such a fast, big, aggressive game, like you don't really have nothing to prove off the start. You just want to get your systems going. You want to get your feet underneath you. You want to get going. You want to feel comfortable. And then as you get into that, that November, December, January, that's where you really hit your hot streak. And that's what Vegas did. And I feel like that's what they're going to do this year. So it's going to be a good game tonight. I'm going to say like a 3-2, just for you guys. 3-2 Seattle Kraken's going to come in. The Vegas boys might not have got their IV this morning. They might be a little rough out there, but no, I think it'll be a good game. They're professionals. So, but I'm going to say, just like you guys, I think the Kraken will come in and steal one here, but it's going to be a good season for both teams. But in the end, they're both going to be where they were last year, I feel.
Yeah, I think if some of those Vegas players feel this morning when they wake up the way they looked last night during the football game, then yeah, it wouldn't be an easy wake up call. I think for them this morning. But more than anything here with Vegas, and you mentioned it, Brett. It's a great point. Team that's just won the Stanley Cup. What are you trying to establish in the first week of the season, your first few games? Let's just get back on the ice and get the season going. And it's more so about process than results. And it's about pacing yourself. And you've won it all. You don't panic over, if we lose a couple in the early part of the season, it's the end of the world. Not for a team like Vegas. And plus, you got to almost treat these full 82 game regular seasons like segments, like, their own, the multiple seasons within one season. Look at Florida last year, down where you are, Brett.
Yeah,
last year, they couldn't get out of their own way in the first half of the season. They had a brutal first half of the season. Bobrovsky's struggling. They had some injuries, but they weren't playing well. They looked like they were life and death, to make the playoffs. It was a struggle to adjust to Paul Maurice and the way he wanted them to play early in the season. All of a sudden, the second half rolls around and things start to click. They get red hot down the stretch, although Alex Lyon provides a little surprise, terrific net minding too down the stretch. And they get into the playoffs and they catch fire. They go all the way to the Stanley Cup final when nobody would have seen that coming in the first half of the season. Maybe you get that from Vegas too. Just pace yourself. There's going to be better in the second half. They're going to be better in the playoffs than maybe they are in October, November.
Yeah, I think you just look at like Boston last year, you know what I mean? Like to be honest, they looked amazing. Like they had 4 lines, they had 3 good D pairing, 2 amazing goalies, but like they were just so focused throughout the year with the media and I'm sure obviously with themselves about how good they were doing, the best record in NHL history or whatever, So I think with hockey, it's not like baseball or basketball. Obviously, football is a very aggressive sport, but like hockey, it's so hard on your body that you really honestly do have to pick and choose guys like Jeff Carter, Crosby, Malkin, those guys. Like, are those guys going to go hard? Yes, they're going to go hard and physically they are, but it's not going to be, they're not going to be able to put up with it for 82 games.
Yep.
And so you have to pace yourself. You're going to have ups and downs, but the beginning of the year, unless you're a bubble guy and you're trying to make the lineup, right? I think those guys are obviously they're working for their jobs, but like the veterans, they are they're really just going to ease into it, I feel, and then once they get their boots underneath them, then obviously they're going to be amazing. But I think a lot of teams and players nowadays are just looking at a different mentality, and everyone says the cliche, "Oh, you win, you get the most points in the NHL." Then you lose out the first round, but there's actually something behind that now because it's been, especially like I was saying last year, like Boston should have won the cup, but were they out of gas? Were they concentrating too much on the regular season? We don't know, right? So I think if I'm, the new age NHL, like you have to take care of yourself, all that kind of stuff, but you have to have a different mentality. And the old school coaches don't like that. They want to be like, you fucking work your bag off every game, every day, every practice, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But I don't think you can do that nowadays. I think you have to just not take it easy, but
You
you
pick your
have
spots
to.
to do that, to
Yeah,
crack the whip and
exactly.
put them
You have
through
to,
a
you
bag
have to
Exactly.
skater
find your
so
right
that
pace and balance with it. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't want to be lethargic and go out and be 0-14 and be ha ha ha. We're just taking it easy because we're a little
Right.
bit banged up because we won the cup and stuff like that. But
Right.
also the Vegas guys, they're professionals. Like there's a lot of where I'm from in Canada, Western Canada, like McCrimmon's from there. A lot of their players have a WHL tie. Chandler Stevenson, a lot of those guys, McNabb, White Cloud, all those kind of guys. So going into Vegas, those guys need to know how to control the city of Vegas and their off ice, right? So yes, they're
Right.
going to go to Monday Night Football and get a little goofy and all squirrely and all that kind of stuff. But throughout the season, you can't be going out every night in Vegas, or else you're just not going to be
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
So
Right.
those guys are professionals, but like you said, it's a long season, man, and there's so many things that come into play. So obviously, you just want to use the mentality and take it one game at a time. And tonight is the first game they're going to enjoy hanging the banner up. And you never know, Seattle might come in here and slip away with a greasy little win.
no doubt. And that's what we're hoping for, that Seattle's able to take advantage of this here tonight. And, there's a reason why a lot of the Vegas players, wives and kids and their families have decided when we purchase property and we purchase our home in Las Vegas, we're going to go to Summerlin. We're going to go a little bit more to the outskirts of because they're not living in downtown Las Vegas. The players, they're not living, just off the strip. No, they're going into Summerlin. They're going into more of the, residential areas of Las Vegas because they need some semblance of normal life. When you're playing in a place like Las Vegas and just live that normal life. And of course, they are able to do that. No question. So that's definitely something to watch for. All right. We before we wrap up the show, we got best bets, of course. We always do that. That's an Ice Guy staple. That is not going anywhere. We've got best bets to wrap it up. But we're going to introduce a brand new segment. And Alex, feel free to contribute to this segment throughout the course of the season. If you've got, this is a player prop specific segment, but you knew what we made famous last year on this show. I was just got onto this roll and got into this groove of just picking these gem goal scorer props at these plus 300, plus 400, plus 500 in some cases, those kind of prices. And so a new segment on the show this season. Here it is, the bargain bin. That should be actually the bargain bin special of the night. That is what this segment is going to be. The bargain bin special of the night. And this is me picking one and only one. And that's the thing. It's not specials of the night. It's special of the night. So I can only have a chance to pick one truly value-laden goal scorer prop on the NHL betting board each and every night. And for my first bargain bin special of the night, I'm going to go back to the Chicago-Pittsburgh game. And this is one that I definitely noticed early in the day when I saw this yesterday from the people that follow the Blackhawks, seeing their line combinations and noticing that the top line tonight is going to be Connor Bedard, Taylor Hall, and Ryan Donato, slated to be on the top line for the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. And if you look at the goal props for Bedard, you're getting in the plus 150 to plus 200 range. For Taylor Hall, you're getting in the plus 190 to plus 250 range. But for Ryan Donato, who is going to be on the right wing side of that top line, and he's also going to be on the number one power play unit tonight for the Chicago Blackhawks as well, Ryan Donato at FanDuel right now is plus 550 to score a goal tonight for the Chicago Blackhawks. And these are the situations we talked about a ton last year, that one player in particular that unexpectedly, maybe not everyone thought this would happen with Ryan Donato, that he'd be on the top line to start the season. And there was zero adjustment in the prop for that player, despite him playing on the top line, whether it was his goal prop, assist prop, point prop, you name it, there was no adjustment. And that's what this looks like to me. that Ryan Donato, obviously, whether he scores tonight or not, to me, he shouldn't be at that price. Playing on the top line with Taylor Hall and Connor Bedard, and also expected to be on the power play. So Ryan Donato for the Chicago Blackhawks at plus 550 at FanDuel is my first bargain bin special of the night for the new season.
Nice. I love it. That's amazing. I mean, I can't trump that. The closest thing I'd even come close to would be the Hall the score prop at plus 300. But that's great value. Like I said, that's great handicapping, and that's the thing to look at. Something to talk about certainly in the first 2 weeks of the season. A lot of people are excited. We're all super jazzed up and ready to bet on the sport. But I think having this player prop boom over the last year makes it a little easier to find things to bet on early in the year. If you're trying to get a feel for the teams as a whole, you may not have that right away. But if you have a good feel on certain players, especially if you've seen something from some guys in preseason that you like, you have the chance to build with that. You can attack the player prop market more than even just the standard side and total market this time of year. Yeah,
no doubt. And that's what you look for. You look at those lineup charts every day. You look at those, and RotoWire has them. The best beat writers on Twitter, and at X, I should say, they're the ones that are going to post the line combinations and the defensive pairs at every practice, every morning skate, right before the game. And that is where I find a lot of this information as well. And if you can find players, again, we've said it millions of times, especially last year on the show, if you were with us, that players moving up the lineup, are the players that are going to give you the greatest value as far as player props are concerned. And that's what I see here with Ryan Donato tonight. Top line, not necessarily expected to be on the top line to begin the season, but he is starting tonight, and he's plus 550 to score a goal. That's value. Win or lose, that is value. So there you go, Ryan Donato, plus 550 for my first bargain bin special of the new NHL season. All right, we're going to start with Brett for best bets here to wrap up the show. And actually, you know what? Before we do that, quickly on betting strategy, Alex wanted to bring this up. I think it's worth talking about it. Just betting strategy early in the season. It's that it's a long season. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You don't put all your bankroll or a large portion of it on the first night or first 2 nights of the season. And for me, even though I'm a high volume bettor, it's important to separate high volume from the amount that I've got. These are all the same smaller amounts for the most part. There's one bet in particular that I'll get to, and it'll be my best bet for the show that's bigger than a lot of the others. Other than that, everything's smaller. The player props are smaller bets. Just make sure you are always being responsible and managing your bankroll properly early, not only early in the season, but throughout the season, especially when you got a daily sport like hockey. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, and 2 things I wanted to mention to kind of split with talking about betting strategy for the beginning of the year. One thing is when you're signing up, and I know we have a lot of people who are watching us that are new, or maybe like I said, this is your first or second year betting in hockey. Always check with every sports book you use, whether it's domestic, whether it's offshore. Check and see what options you have available. The menu changes every year and different things change. For example, someone in the chat was mentioning about trying to find -1 lines, where yes, you had to create those before, but now a lot of books, MGMs, BetMGM specifically, will have where you can have a sliding scale of betting 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, where a lot of books now have switched to the model of having -1.5, -2.5, -3.5. You don't get that flat number, which is huge if you're talking about the obviously pushing or covering a number. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. But number 2, he said, everything's evolving and changing with lineups and different things. You want to follow some good beat writers on Twitter. You want to follow, like I said, the Roto World's goalie posts to know when goalies are going to start and getting those kind of lineup things kind of set. Over time, you'll be able to get the feel if you follow a certain team of which goalie will be going in, which nights they're going to be, flipping and flopping on a back-to-back, which goaltender would be going in net. So, it takes time to develop those things as well. So, like you said, with a brand new season, just take it easy with your bets. Take it easy with, just developing your strategy and your handicap. And if you have the right handicap in due time, some of those closer losses you may have early will turn into closer wins later in the season.
Absolutely. It's great advice. No doubt about that. Just before we get to best bets, I do want to mention this too. Our thoughts and well wishes to Barry Melrose. Just some very, very sad news that Parkinson's disease he has been diagnosed with, and he will not be on the ESPN NHL broadcast, any of them, for the foreseeable future. So Very, very unfortunate
Yeah,
news. And we wish, and Barry Melrose has been basically an ESPN lifer, with the NHL coverage. He was there when they had the rights in the 90s. After he stopped coaching, he went there in the late 90s, early 2000s. He was part of the ESPN broadcasts. Then they lost the rights for like almost 20 years, and he stayed there. He was still there. He was their one hockey analyst. They'd bring him in throughout the season and in the playoffs, even when ESPN never had any of the games on their network. And then, of course, when ESPN got the rights back a couple of years ago, he was part of the broadcast again. And look, sad news. And we just hope that he gets through this and recovers. But unfortunate news there for Barry Melrose. We wish him all the best. No question about that. All right, best bets to wrap up our season premiere edition, our 7th season already of this show. It's hard to believe it's been that long. Brett, thanks for joining us. You'll be back too next Tuesday.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and you'll be back next Tuesday as well on the show. But your first best bet, my friend, you better make it count. What do you got?
My first best bet, I'm going to bet that Connor Bedard is going to score 1 goal tonight. And then I also am going to bet that the Seattle Kraken are going to beat Las Vegas. And then my third bet will be that Pittsburgh and Chicago are going to be the over, and it's going to be a high-scoring affair. And that's all I have for you today.
There we go. That's a lot right there. You make it sound like you should have had 3 or 4 more bets to possibly throw out there for best bet. But all right, so Connor Bedard, anytime goal scorer for Brett Pepler here on this Penguins Blackhawks game. And again, that is at plus 200 at FanDuel, and again, over 6.5 as well. So a couple of best bets there for Brett Pepler, our special guest today. Alex, first best bet of the season. What do you got?
We're releasing the Kraken, Seattle Kraken, plus 145, plus 150. You can grab the plus 150. I don't know where that's around, but definitely grab that. I got 147 actually about 2.5 weeks ago. But like I said, it's going to be pomp and circumstance galore for Vegas as they have their banner ceremony. They're celebrating. It's just a lot of emotion, and it's not just because it's Vegas. Any team, you see the emotion on the players' faces. Recanting and recalling that grueling time where they were able to have that much joy and success. And now here they are at the brand new season, and now you got a team who's hungry and fierce and ready and capable to be right in that spot where Vegas is right now a year from now. In the Seattle Kraken. I love the way that this team's made up. I think they're a great team, and I think they'll be able to take the air out of T-Mobile Arena and come away with 2 points on the road. So give me the Seattle Kraken plus 150. My first best bet of the 23-24 season.
There you go. Seattle Kraken plus 150 against Vegas. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. And we've got to shout out the comment here by Jarek Rubel. I put on the season preview show last night, fell asleep at Buffalo, and woke up at St. Louis. That tells you how long it was, right? We can get through a whole sleep cycle, and the show is still going. And we're so there you go. And you're right.
Is that a chirp? Is that a chirp?
No. I think it's reality. I think it's a testament to how the fuck long we did that.
Right, yeah.
5 hours going through every single team. All right, my best bet. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I gave the reasons earlier. Chicago, Pittsburgh over 6.5. It's up to minus 125. This was the opening night bet that stood out to me weeks ago. So I'm rolling with it here. Blackhawks and Penguins over 6.5, minus 125. I think both teams right now are better offensively than they are defensively. And I think it's going to show here tonight in this game. Chicago, Pittsburgh over 6.5 for my best bet for this opening night of the NHL season. And that is a wrap for this season premiere edition of the Ice Guys. We thank everyone in the chat for joining us. Too many of you to name, but hit the like button. Hit the join button as well if you want to become an Ice Guys family plan member and have exclusive access to all our bonus, extra features, videos, content, you name it. Our daily card will be posted there as well, either in text or video form for the members only in the community. So all of that and more, $9.99 US per month to become an Ice Guys family member, subscriber of the channel. Brett, we appreciate you joining us. You'll be back next Tuesday for another edition of the show. For Alex B. Smith, for Brett Pepler, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the opening night of the NHL season, and we will be back tomorrow on Wednesday for another edition of the Ice Guys. Have a good opening night. And by the way, I should also point out, I forgot to do my little spiel at the end. The Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. And if you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. Enjoy opening night, everybody, and we'll see you again tomorrow.